Seriously, you guys. Seriously. He just stole my coffee. And now he's acting like an insane person. Hi, guys. Happy episode 41. This is real life. I just made my first iced coffee at home. It's actually pretty good. But he had to drink and go. Okay. Anyway, what's up, gang? Hi, Nate. Sometimes we want to bring you guys the actual shenanigans as they're happening. But it's been a long week, and it's Tuesday. So, anybody else feeling that?
No, but it's Wednesday.
Oh, when you said that, I was like, is it Tuesday? So, we're talking about presents today. Ironically, maybe we don't feel so present. Not true. Hi, Rosie.
We're blessed by your presence.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. So, we're going to talk a couple things about presents today. If you've heard us talk before, you've heard us talk about the importance of this. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. We want to kind of do a deep dive into what is present. Why is it so important? Why Brandon's repeating everything I'm saying. So I think there's two sides of it. Do you want to say anything in the intro?
You ask me when I'm taking a drink or something? Good professional segue here.
Shenanigans. All right, I'll just keep talking.
Keep rolling.
Are you done? Brandon's really tired today. He needs
I think I've slept very well the last 2 days.
All right, so there's two parts of it. Shh. Maybe I should just kick him out. He's not present. All right, guys. Two parts of presents. So first, I'm going to talk about presents with yourself and why that's so important, and then I'll let Brandon kind of talk about presents with other people. So obviously, last week we were talking about relationships, and we want to keep that going a little bit. But presents, I think, is the biggest thing one of the biggest things you can learn in your life that will start to change everything, right? So if you've heard us talk, we're like, it's always awareness and then non-judgment and curiosity and all that kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is that usually before you can have awareness, you have to have presence, right? If you are outside of yourself, if you're afraid to like be in your body, be with your thoughts.
I'm listening to you.
He's like zoned out. So if you're unable to like be with your thoughts, if you struggle to, we hear this a lot, right? Like, I'm not very good at meditating or breath work or that kind of stuff. It's probably because you're sort of used to this chaos world, and you're used to being outside of yourself and like worrying about worrying about what's going to happen in the future or the past, or you're multitasking, right? Like, I've talked about this before, but I was like a classic multitasker. And I was like, I got all this stuff done, but really what all that was doing was creating chaos in my life. And I never got any of it done, right? It was like, okay, well, I had this open, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go do this, right? Like, we have 3 businesses, we have kids, and it was just like, but I did it to myself because I sort of took pride in like, look at all the things I can do at once, right? And the truth of the matter is that doesn't work. And I had to really look at it and go, I'm not multitasking, I'm zero tasking, right? Because I never had my focus solely on one thing. And so for me, when I didn't want to be present. I mean, a lot of you guys have heard my story, eating disordered eating for 25 years. I didn't want to be in my body. I didn't want to be present with my thoughts. I didn't want to be present with my sensations. I didn't want to honor that stuff. I didn't want to have awareness around it because I didn't know what to do with it, right? And so if you guys are feeling that way, that's part of what we want to give you is like, it's okay to be with that stuff and to slow down, okay? And understand that like you're safe to feel all the things, okay? But so what I want you to think about is that if you have a to-do list, right? And you're like, I have a million things to do, and I've tried to get all of them done. We're like, okay, well, if I do 3 things at once, I'm going to get it done faster. But I would challenge you guys to take a day, take a week, take whatever it is and go, okay, I'm going to like document my day, and I'm going to be present in every single one of those moments. I'm going to do one thing. So if you're doing the dishes, just do the dishes, okay? If you're talking to somebody on the phone, just talk to them. Don't be doing something else, right? And like, see if you can actually bring your awareness to that situation. But then in your own, when you're with yourself, of like, when you're present, what sensations is your body giving you, okay? We talk about this all the time, is that like your brain is giving you sensations all the time, but so is your body, right? And most of us are able to hear and understand the sensations coming from our brain, known as thoughts, easier than we can understand things that we're getting from our body, which might be sensations, intuitive hits, that kind of stuff, okay? So when you can take some time to slow down, get present in your own system, get aware of what are your thoughts, what are your feelings, like that's when we start to get into the beliefs and we get into all of that kind of stuff. But what you're going to find is that if you are the person that is the control freak, people pleaser, hustle, gotta do all the things like I was, that when you slow down and you create presence, you're going to start to see that those things actually are not serving you, right? Because presence, you can create flow, and with flow, life becomes easy, it becomes simple, and everything just starts to shift for you. But you first have to slow down to be present, and you have to choose to go, okay, I'm going to do one thing right now. And if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'm just having that conversation. If I'm working on something, I'm just doing that one thing.
Well, I think along with that is when you're doing that, like Court said, bring awareness to, the sensations and everything, but also be aware of what are your actions when you're doing that, right? Like when you are focusing on being present, do you also get fidgety? Do you get like, you have to have something going on, right? Like you have to always look around.
As our daughter
comes
in.
Our daughter walks in the door.
What?
Right? Like, and that might be a good indication for you that you probably have a hard time actually being present and focusing on what exactly you're doing in this moment in time, right? Like if you are having a hard time holding a 5-minute conversation with somebody without checking your phone, without looking at your email, without, reading other things or doing with whatever, that's probably a very good indication of also what you're doing in other areas of your life, right? And I think just like Court said, is oftentimes we would try to wear that badge of like, I can get so much stuff done and everything else, but to me, that's no different than the stuff that we try to teach the kids we work on in our kids program, right? It's not about how much you do, it's about how much you do right, right? Like when you're multitasking, even when you're present, you're going to make mistakes, right? But the likelihood in which you're going to make mistakes drops significantly versus like when you're multitasking and going all over the place, right? Like it's not about how much you get done, it's about how well the product in which you produce, right? Like it's not necessarily how much time you spend with your significant other, if only you feel 30 seconds was worthwhile time, right? Like it's that presence piece, it's that energy exchange in which you feel from those relationships, from the time you're putting into whatever activity you're doing to the time you're spending with your spouse, your kids, whatever. It's not like, well, we just went away for the whole weekend. Well, you were present for like 10 minutes of it, right? And people know that. People can feel that, right? Like that's energy. That people know exactly, like, right? Like, have you ever had a conversation of like, I've never felt more heard in my life, right? Like I never met that person, but they just acted like I was the most valuable person they've ever met in their life, and I will do anything for that person now, right? Whereas opposed to like, well, I spent all weekend with this person, I have no idea what they like, who they are, what their kids' names are. Like, I don't even know if they know what their kids' names are, right? It's just that difference between being present of just something so simple. I know if one thing for me, yet again, I tend to learn well from stories, but one thing I noticed, from my own experiences, one day we went ice skating with the kids downtown. The girls wanted to go ice skating. We just spent the night down in
New Year's.
It was New Year's. We just spent the night down in Cherry Creek and celebrated New Year's, and they went out and everything else. And we had promised them, like, okay, let's go ice skating. And so Skylar's got her little like assisted thing out on the ice, and Carson's like grabbing the understanding of how to skate around and everything else, and I'm going around with Courtney's helping Skylar out, and like it just kind of hit me all at once of like, holy shit, I'm not present at all. Right? Like I've been spending all this time celebrating New Year's and doing all these kind of things, but I'm always worried outside myself, right? Like, I mean, like you said, we have 3 businesses, we have 2 kids, we got a dog, we got a house, we all have obligations no different than what you guys have. But I noticed for myself is it gets really easy to all of a sudden start thinking about, well, okay, how am I going to pay the bills? I need to call this person. I need to make sure I text this person. I need to do this. When it's like, Carson, all she wanted right in that moment was just me to be present and be able to experience that with her. And that kind of like slapped me across the face of like, holy shit, like we've been doing all these activities, but I'm not here right now. Right. And like, she can feel that, right? Like you can see it in her eyes of like, Dad, just, go around and just skate with me. Right. And so I think it's a real big, that was a very big kind of like aha moment for me of like, wow, I just noticed that for myself. I can't imagine how Court feels. I can't imagine how Skylar feels. I can't imagine how, Carson feels as I'm going through those things. And when I'm looking back yet again, like, I mean, if you've been listening, regret is my like highest moving away from value. And I would say that if you're not present, most likely, I know for myself, if I'm not being present, I know somewhere down the line, I'm going to look back of like, and that's going to probably bring about a large amount of regret because I wasn't allowing myself, and it's a choice, allowing myself to enjoy the moment from moment to moment.
Yeah, and I think that's that's a huge thing, right? For me, when I noticed that I started to become present, because I was not present for a lot of my life. I'm going to talk about two things. On a work side, I'm going to talk about that first. On a work side, when I did actually say, I'm going to take an hour and see how much I can get done on this one thing, I literally had a day where I worked straight for 3 hours, and I was like, I got more done in that 3 hours than I got done all of last week, because I chose just to sit down and like get it done. I was like, holy cow. And it felt so much better, right? So on a work thing, that's a big deal for me. Like, I close down all the other windows. I'm like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. Right. And so that's been a big change for me there. But on the other side of being present, like, so many of us lack presence a lot because we're worried about something, right? So most of you know my story, right? Like, started anorexia when I was like 16, okay? Like, I mean, not like hospitalized, not that kind of thing, but like seeing how little food I could actually eat, right? Led into bulimia, disordered eating for most of my life. And I will tell you that the amount of time I spent worrying about what I look like and worrying about the calories in my food diminished so much of my presence in so many aspects of my life. Probably a solid 10-year chunk where that was like, I was so consumed by that like I was there, but in here, I was so worried about all of that stuff in the background that I missed out on so much joy, so much laughter, so many experiences that could have been so much better because I wasn't able to be there because I was worried about something else, right? I had this underlying thing that was just nagging at me. And I know for me, like, once I started meditating and I started breathing and I started creating calm in my own life that I could just be, I was like, I noticed the sun was brighter, the trees were prettier, the air smelled better. And the biggest thing was when I was with the kids and with Brandon, I could be, right? And I could be like, they're so funny and they're so cute. And just to take 5 minutes and just watch them and be present in that. Like, if you're missing out on presence, you're missing out a ton of happiness. We keep talking about happiness, right? Like, you are missing out on so much happiness that could be. You know, we were talking about this on a walk the other day of like, we're all worried about like, what's going to happen? When's the world going to open back up? Yada, yada, yada. But like, in that right now, in this moment, right now, how much is wrong in your world? Right now. Probably not much. Right? And so like when we were out on our walk, I was like, you wouldn't know that there's a pandemic and that there's all these things happening. And I'm not saying be oblivious, but like in the right now, usually things aren't really that bad, right? They're really not. And so it's the worry and the fear that gets a hold of us, right? And so it's like, be present and then set the intention for how you want to feel and what you want to think is going to happen in the future. And I'm telling you guys, if you do this, your relationships will get better. Like, we do it. Like, coming up here, Brina was looking at something and I was like, are you even listening to me? And he's like, yeah, you know, but like, he is listening. And I get this from him all the time too, of like, you're not listening. And I'm like, I am, but I'm also looking at my phone. And that makes the other person feel like you don't care, right? Like, if you're talking to me and I'm like doing this, but I'm still talking to you, like, how much are you going to get from that? Probably not a lot, right? So think about that and think about like, can you just set your phone down? Can you just do the one thing, right? I think the best thing you can practice is like, do dishes. So old school dishes, like put suds in a sink and see how much you can actually feel while you're doing dishes. Can you feel the water? Can you feel the bubbles? Like, how present can you be in that moment of that super simple task, right? Or do that in the shower. Like, how much can you feel in that moment, and start to do that with like really silly things. And then you'll start to notice that in the other aspects of your life, it just starts to happen and starts to pour over. And honestly, I think when you start having more presence and gratitude just starts to like, it just slides its way in because you're like, oh, wow, my life really is pretty good, right? There might be some things that are hard and some things that I struggle with, but like, my life is pretty darn good and this is awesome. And I can create this feeling anytime I want by dropping in and being present and being with people that I love.
You can go do that with the kids' slime. All the weird things you can feel with it.
We were making slime. We were like, we'll never make slime. Yeah, we've made slime twice, but
the things you do as parents.
Yeah, it's actually kind of fun. So hopefully that helps. Anything else?
No, I think, you know, Courtney's obviously experienced that a lot with food and bulimia, anorexia, all those kind of things. I know for myself, looking back of, you know, as a competitive athlete, you know, as a competitive CrossFit athlete of trying to compete and make it to the games and do all these kind of things. Like, I remember being so overwhelmed every single day of not only thinking about my nutrition of weighing, measuring, doing all those kind of things, but also of like how much I had to do on an exercise standpoint. Like, right, like I need to get up, I need to train in the morning, and then I need to make time in the afternoon, and then I got to do all these other things. And, you know, and that you can interchange these things with different tasks you guys throughout the day. But, you know, for me, it was like, well, yes, technically it was a healthy goal, but really it was actually taking away from a lot of what I was being present with my family, right? It was, okay, well, I need to do these things, but I'm so overwhelmed of, I need to get this in, I need to go to, we need to go right now, we need to get out of here, I need to go make sure we get all these things done before it's like, well, really, like Courtney said, all that worrying, what I was doing was just compounding more problems that was going on to it. And the energy that was being felt on that was actually creating even more problems between us. Not that we were having problems, but on the same standpoint of, it was just felt like you
it was a very hustle mentality.
Yes.
There was no flow, there was no ease. Like, it was like so regimented and so strict and so rule based, and like the opposite of what we're preaching to you guys. And we're preaching this to you guys because we've lived it, right? Like, we're not saying don't hustle because we've never done it. We're saying don't hustle because it doesn't serve you.
Well, and you can still get all these things done. I think that's the part that like blew us away of like, you don't need to have like this time clock always ticking and in the back of your head of like, this is dinging down. You got 23 and a half hours left in the day in order to get these things done. When it's like, well, when you bring about presence and you really allow yourself to be in there, it kind of opens up a lot of windows of like, wow, that was only 2 hours and we accomplished all that and we got to experience that together. Sweet. I can still go get all the things I have done without feeling like this overwhelming massive pressure of always I have to get certain things done, right? And I think
it actually makes time expand. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It actually makes time expand, right? Like, time is an illusion. We've talked about this before, but time is an illusion. And I was like, the first time I heard that, I was like, that is not true. There's like 24 hours to that. But like, it is an illusion. And when you're present, you expand time. So think about this, right? This is a simple thing to do. If you were with your partner in this amazing conversation, you know, having time together, sharing the evening, time goes by like that, right? It goes by super fast. If I ask you to put your hand on a hot stove, how fast does time go? Really, really slow, right? And so if you think about this, time is an illusion. And the way that you show up in the world and the energy you show up and the presence you have, time will expand, right? Like, I even feel like that today. I was like, wow, we've had like all this time. I'm like, it's only whatever time it is, 2:30, 3 o'clock. I don't know what time it is, but like, presence will expand time. It will expand joy. It will expand everything. It expands just, again, we say lean into expansion. Everything feels bigger and easier when you're present, okay? When you're chaotic and you're running and you're hustling and you have this weight of the world on your shoulders, everything feels contractive and overwhelming and chaotic, right? And so like, what do you want? How do you want to feel in your life? Like, expansive or contractive?
Well, it's the best gift you can give to yourself and give to the others around you. I mean, literally, it's that simple, right? Like we talked about it. We talked about the love languages, talked about energetic exchange. We talked about all those things, but presence trumps everything, right? Like, it literally, it's king all be all, because if you're not present, everything else goes out the window. And yet again, if you're not present within your own being of doing certain things, you're probably not even coming close to getting the amount of stuff that if you are, you know, again, if you're trying to get stuff done, you're probably not getting nearly the amount of stuff done that you possibly could be. And it's probably not to the quality in which it could probably be as well.
Yeah. So awesome, you guys. Nate, thank you. Hopefully that helped you guys. So let us know. Give it a try. Spend a day and go, okay, I'm only doing one thing at a time. I'm going to be a whole 100% invested in what I'm doing at this current moment. And then let us know how it feels.
Well, and if you're going to do that, you guys, I would recommend taking your phone or some sort of device, putting it in another room so you cannot grab it, and distract yourself.
Yeah, put it on Do Not Disturb. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a happy Tuesday, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye, y'all.